Perfect Blue is one of the most intense and gripping anime I have ever seen. It's not horror in the typical sense of the word. There's no demons or monsters, and very little blood compared to your typical horror experience. Nothing is hiding under the bed waiting to strike except for your other self. And that's what Perfect Blue is truly about, a struggle of identity, specifically the struggle of Mima, a pop idol turned drama actor, and her inner battle to define which role is her actual reality as external events constantly weaken her mental state. But honestly, that's just a simple back-of-the-box overview of this immensely dark yet oddly hopeful story. Perfect Blue was the directorial debut of the late Satoshi Kon, a man of brilliant vision and the same mind that brought us other exceptional films like Tokyo Godfathers and Paprika, which, by the way, if you haven't seen, you are missing out. Anime is a medium that rarely hits on the scary scale, and most mangakas and directors typically stray away from the genre. It used to be impossible to sell a franchise in the horror genre in Japan at all. Even Vampire Hunter D's creator Hideyuki Kikuchi, who was interviewed about the creation of D, in which he explained that he added in sci-fi elements and set D's story in the far future specifically so his work would be labeled as science fiction because nobody would publish a horror story. So that gives you an idea of the atmosphere that Kon was working in, and yet he pulled off a masterpiece that's both unique every time you watch and iconically disturbing. At the same time, Perfect Blue is an invitation for the viewer to look into their own life, their own self, and find out whether or not who they are is a whole individual or something split between who they are and who they want to be. This is Perfect Blue. Let's get into it. Hey, do your walls look bland? Tired of feeling like you're trapped in a mental ward until the virus goes away? Well, what are you gonna do? Get a poster? Nah, those things wrinkle and tear and need frames. Yuck. Instead, you should get disc plates like me. Metal wall hangings that go on with magnets so they're interchangeable. In all honesty, guys, when it comes to decorating my apartment, I have always used disc plates, and now you can too. Not everybody is down for a Patreon pledge, and we understand that, but if you follow our link in the description to discplate.com, you can get yourself a Prezi at a major discount and help us out at the same time. I personally worked very hard to curate a collection of prints that Bonsai Pop viewers will definitely love, but you are also able to get whatever you want as long as you follow our link. It's always going to help us. So check it out. You can get up to 37% off, and there's always deals going on. Thank you so much, and on with the show. Here we go. Perfect Blue opens on a musical performance of a pop idol trio called Cham. Mima is one of the three girls, and at the end of their performance, she announces that she's going to be leaving Cham to become an actress. Just before this announcement, a fight breaks out in the crowd, introducing another important character who I like to call Mr. Creepy Eyes. His actual alias is Mimania, and he's super into Mima, like way too into Mima. He's got the stereotypical stalker wall with tons of pictures of her, stares at her without blinking with these dead eyes that try to drown you in blackness. You get the idea. Back to the concert. Mima takes back the crowd's attention, ending the fight, and announces her departure from Cham. A random onlooker points out that her move to acting makes sense from her agency's point of view because acting is much more lucrative than singing. This is the first time we get a hint that maybe this move isn't Mima's choice, but her agency's instead. Part of Perfect Blue is about identity, who you are, and from the get-go, the stage is being set for a girl taken out of her comfort zone and placed in a new career with a new persona that is different from the one she knows and is comfortable with. This simple line is hinting that it could be her agency's fault or decision. However, when we get a good look at Mima's agency, it turns out she's assigned two agents, Tadokoro and Rumi. Tadokoro is pushing for her transfer into acting while Rumi is reluctant to switch Mima from her pop idol status. So even with her agents, there's a split in opinion on what's best for Mima. Just for the record, there is just one line in the entire movie that references Rumi's past as a pop idol, so there could just be some personal motivation for Rumi's opinion on Mima's career. Anyway, immediately after her break with Cham, weird things start happening. Mima gets a call with just heavy breathing on the other end. She gets a fax covered in the word traitor. It becomes extremely obvious that someone isn't happy with her decision to leave Cham and also seems to know a little too much about her. They have her personal phone and even her fax number. That's like stalker level 9000. And then it escalates. Cut to the first day on set, Mima has one line. Seems like a solid career move so far, but that line is, "Who are you?" which is definitely not some blatant smack you in the face symbolism going on right there. But as Mima prepares for her line, the world around her begins to blur. She feels the eyes of everyone on her looking at her, talking about her, laughing at her. Whether it's all in her head or real is actually very hard to say, but at the very least, it's how she's interpreting the room or how her anxiety is presenting. And then there's a quick flash to Mimania in the shadows. Again, we don't really know if he's truly there. He could be, it could be in her imagination. The point is, she's already having some issues as the words "Who are you?" echo in her brain. The line between what's real and what isn't is getting blurry and continues to get even worse. And as she's about to deliver her line, a piece of fan mail addressed to Mima explodes in her manager's hand, sending him to the hospital. A small note falls to the ground that reads, quote, "Is a warning, the next one will be real." Among her fan mail, one letter mentions a website, Mima's Room, but Mima's about as tech savvy as a walrus on K, so Rumi helps her get set up with some cutting edge technology that is definitely not product placement. Mima then looks at the site and realizes the descriptions of her day on there are way too personal. Whoever is making these updates knows what brands of food she buys, what foot she uses to step on the train. It's incredibly creepy. And it's at this point that Mima begins to realize that something is very wrong. As the camera cuts to a view making it look like we, the viewer, are spying on her through her open window. It's good stuff. It puts us right in the eyes of a stalker and makes it that much more uncomfortable. So back to work, Mima's role in the drama starts small, but after some lobbying by Tadokoro, the screenwriter has a brilliant new idea. Let's give this amateur actor a grape scene. And in all honesty, the scene is extremely different from your average anime carton of Welch's. It's presented as real, but then you realize that it's staged, and yet even afterwards, Mima is still distraught over it. She obviously didn't want to do the scene, but felt like it was necessary for her new career. She essentially didn't want to be a bother, so she did something she was uncomfortable with. I think that's something that a lot of people in the limelight have to deal with, choosing between how they want to be perceived and biting the hand that feeds. You don't want to upset the people giving you the opportunities to become rich and famous. However, this discomfort and anxiety leads to a breakdown at her home after she notices that all of her fish are dead in her tank. She then destroys her room, crying hysterically while screaming that she couldn't trouble the people who have gotten her this far. She's having a mental break between who she sees herself as and who she's becoming for this new career. This scene is exceptionally important for the most critical piece of symbolism in the entire anime, which is Mima's room. It starts very neat and orderly, but as she degrades, her room continues to get more and more messed up, which is actually super not typical in Japanese culture. There's generally a high level of respect for keeping things neat and orderly. However, her room is eventually completely and totally destroyed, and possibly even smaller. It's no coincidence that there's a website called Mima's Room, and her actual room is symbolic of her mental degradation. Satoshi Kon wants us to make these connections. And the symbolism isn't deeply covered because he wanted the audience to be uncomfortable while watching, but at the end of her tirade, Mima's alter ego, her Chom self, begins talking to her through the computer screen. That's one of the best parts of the film, is trying to figure out what is actually happening and what's a fantasy or a nightmare, a representation of Mima's stress or lucidity. It makes rewatching Perfect Blue different each and every single time. However, suddenly the people that are helping Mima make her career changes begin getting murdered. First there's the fan letter bomb, but then Double Blind, the drama that Mima is starting in, screenwriter dies in an elevator. Then the photographer who did an adult photo shoot with Mima is stabbed to death with a screwdriver. As these events are occurring around Mima, she grows deeper and deeper in doubt of herself and whether or not she made the right choice in her career. It seems like everything is going wrong since she made the switch. Chom is taking off as a duo, people are getting hurt around her, her fans are upset, and most importantly, the apparition of her other self appears more and more often, telling her that she is the real Mima. Mima also finds evidence of the murders in her own home, calling into question her sanity. Am I hurting these people? Who am I? Who am I? What is Mima's real life and what is the life she's portraying on the TV show? So as the story builds to its climax, Mimania shows up on the last day of shooting Double Blind in an attempt to Netflix and kill Mima, claiming she's an imposter, that she tarnished Mima's reputation. Meanwhile, Mima struggles against him, desperately telling him that she is Mima. And of course, this non-consensual hulu and screw happens on the exact same set that her Concord Grape scene was filmed. Mimania gets a hammer to the head, and then Rumi finds Mima in a hallway, barely able to stand, traumatized and in shock. Mima brings Rumi to the stage only to find that Mimania's body is completely gone. This is a huge breaking point. Mima no longer knows what's real, and neither do we. She's lost, and she's leaning on Rumi's support, and then Rumi says this: "Are you all right? I'm taking you back to Mima's room." Don't you mean your room? Why'd you say it like that, Rumi? That's really weird. Mima wakes up in her room and remembers that she has to call Todokoro, and as she calls, the scene cuts to him dead next to Mimania. As Mima waits for Todokoro to answer, she notices that her fish are all of a sudden alive again. Slowly, realization dawns on her, and she opens the curtains to reveal that the view is not the same as her apartment. This is a replica of her room, but it's not her actual room. She then turns around to see her Cham other self, but it's not her. In the mirror, you can see that it's actually Rumi dressed up as Mima. So to break it down clearly, Rumi was once a pop idol like Mima, and she turned agent after she grew out of it. Grew out of it is probably literal. There's a lot of weight bias in Japan, but apparently watching Mima change from pop idol to actress and destroy her innocent and pure reputation to do some more risque stuff was a little too much for Rumi's brain. So she develops a second personality, the personality of Mima, the pop idol, because it was the only way that she could quote unquote save that Mima from the new Mima, Mima the actress. Rumi was one who actually created the website Mima's Room, where she pretended to be Mima. She took on that persona. She enlisted the help of Mima's stalker Mimania to hurt and kill those who took Mima's career down a different path, created a room identical to Mima's, and eventually at the end tries to kill Mima because she's destroying the old Mima. So in reality, Mima's fears weren't in her mind. As she was changing, there was an internal struggle, but there was also a ton of external manipulation set up by Rumi that made it exponentially more difficult. As Mima's manager, Rumi had access to her schedule, her home, her set. She bought her the PC, she gave her the letter talking about Mima's room. All of it was set up by Rumi's alter ego in an attempt to stop Mima's new persona from developing. And when it didn't work, she ended up trying to kill Mima as a last resort. And in the end, Rumi fails, and the last scene is Mima visiting her in a medical facility, and as she leaves, the nurses comment on how she must be a lookalike to a famous actress. Mima does heal, she does excel in her career, and it was the right choice for her in the end, but it wasn't Mima who was holding herself back, it was Rumi. Ignoring some of the psychosis, what Mima went through mentally is actually pretty normal when we make drastic changes to our lives. There are also going to be some growing pains, fear, anxiety, that also makes you extremely vulnerable, and so does being in the public eye. However, Rumi intentionally abused Mima's identity during her transition to her new role, creating a terrible psychosis that made her unable to distinguish real life from the TV show. Think about it this way, Mima just changed careers. Immediately she feels watched and hated, bad things begin to happen, she's the star in a traumatizing scene. At the same time, her friends from Cham are getting huge breakthrough successes. This all creates doubt about her choices. Is acting the right choice? Did I make a huge mistake? Is this really me? Who am I? And Rumi is a predator stalking these emotions, manipulating them to create such doubt and such stress that Mima's reality and the TV show begin to blend. But it's Mima's acceptance of change that pulls her through. However, Perfect Blue isn't really just about self-identity. It's largely about obsession. Obsession is a dangerous phenomenon. I mean, try criticizing a Sonic the Hedgehog game. Obsession can tweak our view on things, our reasoning, and yes, our identity. Rumi and Mimania are both people with unfortunate circumstances, the latter being disfigured and the former being an overweight ex-star and now agent. The two of them see Mima as the ideal, either the ideal woman or the ideal image, and warp their lives around this idea of Mima. And believe me, like, I get obsession. I myself have obsessive compulsive tendencies. I get so into things. I need to learn everything about these things, collect these things, and have them be perfect, or I cannot relax. Honestly, it is a horrible feeling sometimes, especially when you wait a month for a manga edition to come in and the page is fucking bent. But this is where Rumi broke. While Mima was being a person and growing and changing, she no longer fit Rumi's vision of Mima, this perfect, pure Mima on a pedestal. Watching the grape scene in particular likely triggered a feeling of revilement for Rumi. Seeing her ideal being defiled like that likely escalated this mania that she was experiencing. I mean, think of who Rumi took her rage out on. It was the writers, the photographers, the people defiling this image that she had created in her head of Mima and how Mima is supposed to be. However, despite Rumi's actions, Mima continues to work towards her goal in direct opposition of Rumi's inner desires, creating a mental dissonance. The idea that actress Mima is an imposter. So Rumi takes up the role, the personality, the persona of her ideal image of Mima, and then manipulates Mimania into trying to kill off the real one. And once again, we're dealing with the difference between ideas and reality. It's important to remember that people are people and nobody is perfect. I mean, look at Todd Howard, that little disgusting reptile man. Also, things change constantly. You can't bottle time any more than you can bottle a person. The things we hold to be true will change. The things we love will change, and we need to let that happen. Trying to go against the flow of time will wear you down like rocks in the river until you are a drooling maniac like Rumi. So next time a Sonic game comes out and it inevitably sucks, let it go. Because even Perfect Blue has a happy ending. At least for Mima, now a famous actress, proclaiming "I'm real" after visiting Rumi in the medical facility. So get real, love you, no matter who you are. No pop star is better than you or perfect in any way. Nobody is. Break the illusions, let things change, and go watch Perfect Blue. What's going on, everybody? This is Mike. I just wanted to shout out our Super Saiyan God of the Week, which is Neonosis. My dude, thank you so much for being a high tier supporter on this channel. You're the best. And our super lucky patron of the week, Big Bearded Al. You and your big beard are doing the thing, helping us out. Thank you so much. Guys, if you like this video, make sure to check out every single other video on our channel. They're all this good, if not better. While you're at it, why don't you follow us on social media? Make sure to check out Patreon, check out our podcast, smash the like button, smash your mom. I'm Mike, this is Bonsai Pop. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.